Okay, guys. So we are live actually. Um. Okay. Hello, guys. This is a good. So this is a good time to actually start something like this to talk with two developers and ask them questions. I don't really have a lot of things that's similar to this when I get started. So it is really a privilege to have two people with me today. Just to tell you guys, my camera is there and also my monitor is there. So if I'm looking like this, if I'm looking this way, that means that I'm just trying to view people that are here, probably to ask you questions or probably to comment in the comment section below. So this is where the camera is. So if you are trying to order that, why am I facing you? I'm facing you for some reasons. So I have with me two developers and also in OAU. Um, so the first person is Drimes and the second person is Tenotea. So um they're really a good devs that I know, right? So
Mm. Good afternoon. Good morning.
so can you introduce yourself and let us know exactly?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is
Okay.
Bamibola. I'm known as Brian. I'm a front-end developer. I write JavaScript, and my stack is React Next.
Okay. So thank you very much, James. So also we have my boss here. Timothy, what's up? How are you doing? So please can you
Yeah,
introduce yourself to people there?
yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Emmanuel. Uh, you can call me Tenuti. I'm a JavaScript evangelist. Anything JavaScript or TypeScript. Happy to be here today.
Okay, so thank you very much, Timothy. We're just going to go straight to the point and just asking questions. So this is how it's going to happen. I will ask a question. So James will actually try to answer it, and let's see how good he is. Then if it's not really that good, or if it's good, Timothy will answer the question, and we're going to just brush it up. So I have the questions here. Let's just start straight to the point. So the first question is what are the ways to decrease page load time? So what are the ways to decrease page load time? So James, what do you think?
Okay, I think the number one way of decreasing page load time is to check whether
Okay.
your assets are heavy, like your images. If you have images in the website, web page, check their sizes and try to reduce it. You can convert your PNGs to WebP. You can try reducing
Okay.
the sizes of your MP4 videos. Let's say you have a background video, so
Yeah.
it is actually going to take a long time before it loads. So
Okay. Okay.
then you have to um, asynchronous operations. You have to make asynchronous operations like so you don't have to consume resources. So your your system your code can wait and like you can tell
Okay.
it to do other things like while it is waiting for that operation. So you can make use of asynchronous operations a lot. I think those are the
Okay.
two.
Okay. So those are the two ways you actually know, right?
There are
Okay. So
surely more
Timothy.
ways, but that's the two ways I know.
Okay. So Timothy, can you also tell us like just to brush up what you actually said? What do you think?
Yeah.
Um. Yeah.
So definitely asset size. I like that you mentioned the use of WebP, which is a really tiny format for images that helps you optimize things, assets in general, right? Something else that one could also mention is if you're working with a modern framework like React or Vue, one of the mistakes that a lot of people make is they ship all of the JavaScript immediately. And you have frameworks like Astro that are fighting a very strong battle against that. The web shouldn't be JavaScript
Okay.
first; it should be content first, right? Because that is what you are trying to make
Yeah.
your users. So prioritize getting the content first over to your users, as opposed to pushing in all your effects and animations first. This will also bring me to
Okay.
my second. So for that one, the approach you want to take is you want to use lazy loading to bring in your components, especially when you are routing across multiple pages. If you have 25 routes, your user can only be on one route at one time, right?
Okay.
So you do the
Yeah.
remaining 24 to load in, you just focus on the one route that you need and asynchronously load the
Mhm.
rest as you guys navigate into them. So that's like the lazy loading approach. I know this exists in React and it exists in Vue. I don't know very much about other
Okay.
frameworks, but yeah, those are the things I vouch for, right?
Well.
Then animations, right? Animations. As much as they are good, as much as they are nice, animations that are powered by
Mhm.
JavaScript usually create the overhead. Currently on SFTP
Yeah.
Express, something happens is if you go to the website, the images are being animated using Framer motion, but because the browser
Mhm.
has to wait for JavaScript to load before the animation kicks in, you get this blank page, right? There's this blank section on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah. This is blank page.
Exactly, it just makes the
Yeah.
site feel as much as the content and the CSS has loaded in, people can see stuff. It's just they are not getting the full experience as early as possible. So the site still feels slow. Right.
Okay.
I mean, there. See, yeah, like off the top of my head, like two things I could easily point out. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, yeah, so
Yeah.
thank you guys. So yeah, this is actually a question that I've always been asked, like in development stage, like in interviews actually, and it is a very good question for beginners. So there are a lot of ways, as James has actually said. So there's you can actually reduce the image, right? And Trinity also said like animations, even though they are very very good, I always try to kind of run away from them just to use just micro interaction, because they actually drag the speed of websites down a lot. So but there are a lot of ways you can actually approach that, which is he has actually said. So the other ways to using browser cache and many others. So it is not only the images that are supposed to be optimized, even content should be optimized. Just imagine that a lot of website that has a lot of data. Do you get? So also you're trying to optimize and compress content is very important. So let's move on to the second question. So the second question is it is very simple. So what is a promise? So what is a promise in JavaScript? So James, what do you think a promise is?
Okay. Yeah. According to the best of my knowledge, a promise is is associated with like you are trying to um this is when you are communicating with outside, like outside the browser, let's say the server, you're communicating with the server now. So a promise is like a way to this is like the communication channel. So you send this, then the server sends response back. You tell it, okay, the server sends response back, okay, your what you are requesting is actually here, sends okay, or says no, this is not the right way to request it. And also that's what I know about promises. I know like that's not the technical term. Like that's what's the scope in which they deal with when the brother is talking to outside to the server, like exchanging stuff and like trying to tell you that okay, this is what you want from me, and no, this is not it, and stuff like that. That's what I understand by um promises.
So yeah, just to touch on what he has said, um, a promise is definitely a way to request for something and get the response later. That is the whole premise of how a promise works. But yeah, on a more technical level, a promise is a way to do asynchronous operations in JavaScript, right? It's as much as it is not as asynchronous as you'd expect, that is the pattern that JavaScript uses. So you offload an operation away from the main thread so that other portions of your code can run while JavaScript is handling
Okay.
the remaining operations on the main thread. So, for example, if you were trying to, if you started loading your UI at one point, and somewhere in between the UI, you make a
Mm-hmm.
request to a server, if JavaScript decides to make
All
that
right.
request on if it tries to make if it does not make that request asynchronous, nothing is going to happen on your website until that API call is done. And you could have hundreds of API calls and
Yeah, yeah,
users
yeah, yeah.
a strong freeze right on the side. Just experience a strong freeze, and
Mm-hmm.
happens until that operation is resolved. Promise is the fastest way to move things away from the main thread and push it into uh, running in the background. And when that operation is completed, JavaScript informs your, your main thread that okay, I'm done with this. Take the response, and then you're like, okay, that's where you now await the promise in that sense, right? Um, I think this would segue into um, a different concept in JavaScript, which is known as worker threads. Right, worker threads is like promise pro max. So there are some operations that it's not just about that. That's why I mentioned earlier that the promise isn't as simple as you'd imagine because it's still running on the main thread, but it's not blocking execution. It's not blocking IO in that sense, right? And if you know it's like going to actually impact the entire performance, your best bet is worker thread. What do I mean? If you're trying to do image processing on the side on your website, you don't want it to run that just as an async function. You have to upload it. You have to offload it to a
Yeah.
worker to work on it thread entirely, so that that is not even in any way relating to what is handling your primary website. So that when the operation is done, it uses events to
Mm-hmm.
pass message around. So that's like
Okay.
Promise Pro Max. But
Yeah.
don't let me digress. So yeah,
Okay, so yeah, that's extremely very, very good. So now, so premise is actually what you have actually said, but this is a question. Um, I don't know, maybe guys know Ashford. There was a particular time I was trying to kind of mentor me. He asked that question, that was a promise. I was like, promise is promise. So this is actually something developers should actually understand, right? And in JavaScript, as a front-end developer, it is what we always use most of the time, right? Like most of the time, they try to even ask us questions based on it. So for me, promise is just it's just definitely to maintain states, and it's actually always accept two arguments. One on rejects and the one when it's unfulfilled. Do you get? So that is actually what I can actually say because we have a lot of questions still going to I will still ask. So let's just move on. So you guys can just check that out. So let's go to the third one. Um so the third one is, what is a DOM? What is a DOM? So James, what do you think a DOM is? What do you understand by DOM?
Okay, yeah, a document object model. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
obvious.
exactly.
But what I understand by a DOM
Okay.
Yeah, what I understand by DOM is the way it is a tree representation web page, a tree representation of the way it is structured, hierarchy. Now, like let's say you have a web page that has an image, has a video inside,
Yeah.
the text. The text is a paragraph. So the DOM
Mm-hmm.
is actually going to show you, okay, this is the head, the title, then the body, then the paragraph, the image. So it's going to show you a representation of how it is actually.
Alright.
That's what we call like the DOM. So
Okay.
yeah, that's what I understand by the DOM. So with the help of
Okay.
JavaScript, you can the DOM is like stripped down HTML. That's the way I understand it. But like with the help of JavaScript, so you can help input you can put HTML contents. You can manipulate HTML content through the help of the DOM by manipulating the DOM. So anything you put in the DOM, like with your JavaScript, is going to actually show in your web page. Yeah, that's what I understand by the DOM.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So nothing you said is wrong. The DOM is basically a JavaScript representation of your HTML, and it is, but it is also important to know that that is what makes the JavaScript in the browser JavaScript, right? So what do I mean? JavaScript is a scripting language. It cannot function on its own, right? If you just put JavaScript, if you just write JavaScript and you throw it on your laptop, it's not going to do anything unless you run it in an environment, right? So what are the environments JavaScript can run in? JavaScript can run in the browser. It can run on the server using frameworks like Node and Born and the rest, right? So what makes JavaScript in the browser JavaScript is the fact that the browser exposes the DOM to JavaScript. So that window object and that document object that you always access inside your JavaScript file, it is the browser itself that exposes that to JavaScript, and that is essentially what makes JavaScript run. That's essentially what gives JavaScript the ability to do the things it can do inside of the browser. So like as much as JavaScript is, as long as JavaScript is, as much as the language, it's not doing anything without the browser feeding the window into it, and that's why you can't work with, you know, with the window object in say an environment like Node or Bond because they don't have the window API, and the window API cannot exist in an environment that is different from the browser. So if you ask me what the DOM is, I would say the DOM is the browser API to JavaScript. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's very interesting. So yeah. So that's very interesting. So DOM is actually something I came to understand very well when I was starting to learn React. When you're trying to learn React, there's a particular time you learn something called virtual DOM. So the virtual DOM is just kind of trying to create the DOM somewhere first before like trying into the normal DOM. So DOM, as James has actually said, is more of like a kind of true like you are moving from the top to below. So you have the body, you have the main tag, you have some elements, you have some tests, and a lot of things like that. So it's always, if you understand what really DOM is, you should be able to manipulate, and definitely in JavaScript, so especially people that really learn a lot about jQuery and pure JavaScript, get element by ID, all those kind of stuff. You'll be very, very, very familiar with them. There's actually been a long time that I've written pure JavaScript, like I mean vanilla JS, right, with HTML, CSS. But still, the foundation of that is very important for you. A lot of people that are going to React, you understand what the concept is all about. So that's a good thing. And so let's move on to the next question, right? The next question is, what is the difference between Git and GitHub? So, So, James, what do you understand by Git? How do you understand by GitHub?
Okay, that's very nice. So, Git, I understand Git as a version control system. So, what is a version control system? According to my understanding, a version control system is like to document the versions of your code. Like, let's say now you are creating an application. There will be at some
Okay.
points where you need to make like staggering changes, like your app actually moves from like one big change to another. Not necessarily big change or big change to another. It might be small changes, but you actually need it when it makes big changes to another. So like, it's very important to have a version control system where you store the previous one. You can name it version one or version anything. So you continue with the next one. So it is very helpful.
Okay.
It's very helpful. You can use it as a reference to go check things, or let's say your app suddenly breaks down. Instead of like if you didn't have version control system and you just continue building your app just like that, you won't have anything to roll back to. You won't have anything to roll back to. So that's what I
Yeah, yeah.
understand by Git. By GitHub,
Okay. What up?
GitHub
GitHub.
is yeah, yeah. GitHub is just it's a online version control system. Like, it is a it's where according to how I understand it, where just like an online reference for Git, like what we do on Git locally. Git is locally on the machine, so it is like the online reference.
Mhm.
So I feel GitHub is also like it can help us. If there was no Git, there's not going to be GitHub. So GitHub just like the online reference for you. I understand. Right. GitHub.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I get it. So, Timothy.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Interesting that you put that here. This one I set up. It was supposed to be a front end battle. So I remember like back in 2020 during COVID, I started a little blog, and I think my last two articles were about Git and GitHub, and they did very well. So
Mhm.
uh just like Drimes mentioned, the whole concept here is dealing with a version control system, and there's a lot
Mhm.
there's a lot of version control systems, and they all function in very different ways. I think there was an interesting time when there was this buzz around the one that Facebook is using, and how like ex Facebook engineers built a commercial version of it for other companies to enjoy the love of um, that experience as opposed to Git. And I can't remember the name of the software specifically, but it was interesting to see that there were different ways people were doing these things. But the most popular one just ended up being Git, which was I think it was built by the creator of Linux himself too. And Git is the software, right? Git is a software that implements version control in its own way, using commit histories and hashing your commits so that you can easily find a. So it helps you create checkpoints, basically, right? I am working on something. I want to create a checkpoint. I want to create a checkpoint. I want to create even more checkpoints. And then you can grow that checkpoints to as many as you want. Something that is important to note is that you cannot have too many commits because you don't know when you're going to need one of those previous commit histories. So yeah, um, so if Git is a software on your computer, the Git software itself is not solving the problem that Git is supposed to solve. Git is supposed to help you keep track of your changes. But what if something happens to your computer? If it crashes or your hard drive burns or something, you then lose that, which is where the cloud comes in, right? Everybody understands that when you put something in the cloud, it almost never gets lost. Except this morning, I found out that the image service I was using for the same blog that I mentioned earlier, they lost all of my pictures. But GitHub is not going to do that. And the whole point, the whole essence of having GitHub in the first place is that all of that commit histories have been indexed and then they are stored in the cloud. And the cloud in this case is GitHub. So Git being the software that you put on your computer, runs all the actions. GitHub being where you replicate all of these changes and just put it in the cloud. And this is where a lot of confusion comes in for a lot of people using Git. It's not that it's difficult to understand that Git is a software and GitHub is not the software. It's just when it's time for you to start using two of them together, they can be like little terminologies that just conflict each other. For example, the
Yeah.
whole idea of request and a merge request. eh, what's the difference? Why is it merge on my local? Why is it pull in the cloud? Like these little things really just cause a bit of confusion everywhere. And there's a lot of them to like that. And with GitHub also introducing their own GH. I mean, seriously, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, there's Git in the software, there's GitHub the cloud buckets, if you would. But yeah, that's my take. So
Okay. So thank you guys. Yeah, you guys have actually explained it all. So but there's not really nothing I have to just say, but I will just kind of relate what I really know or what I noticed. So when I actually started, I was like, okay, why do I need GitHub for Christ's sake? I can start on my system. My system spoiled at a particular time, and I was unable to recover all of those projects I've worked on personally to show that okay, this is what I've actually used. Do you get? So when you're trying to get started in tech, you should definitely understand that GitHub is actually what you're supposed to be using every day, right? They have actually said everything. So GitHub is actually is a platform. Those times is a platform that you can check other people's code out there. You can fork other people's projects. You can create a repository. You can interact with other people too on GitHub. That's a kind of where programmers kind of is a community for programmers. Do you get? So whereas Git is just a version control system that you guys have actually said, it's just for you to be able to track what you have been doing so far, commits. And there was something that Tenotea actually said, like it's not really good to actually have a lot of commits. Yeah, that's extremely true. So it's not as if that I'm not actually saying that 5 commits is not really that good. A day is good, but definitely you should be able to track it in a way that okay, you can actually go back to it if need be. To get so let's move on to another question. We might not really do a lot of all of them because I think time has really gone. I was not really expecting that we are going to use this time, but yeah, so Trinity was actually talking about lazy loading that time. So this is actually something that you can all see everywhere. So Drives, what do you understand by lazy loading? What do you understand by lazy loading?
Okay. I'll be honest. I just had like a big idea, but when Boss Noty was trying to explain how you can improve the performance of your web app and stuff, so he actually mentioned something like this loading. It was like so you have to some resources or some pages, some resource your consumers won't be using at the moment, like immediately. You can actually delay their you can delay the resources getting to them for some time, because they are not going to be needing it. There's no use to just let's say you have like 10,000 blogs. There's no reason to just release all of them. The user can only read one. So there's no reason to just give them everything and just give them by little, or you can delay maybe image when a user is scrolling. The image you might decide that you don't want to load all the images now. That as the user is scrolling down, then the images can start coming. I think that's what lazy loading is. Just ways of finding, trying to increase performance by reducing resources
Okay.
performance to give
Okay.
consumer.
All right. That's good. So thank you. So Timothy, what do you
yeah.
understand by just
So I lazy loading, if you ask me, was born out of the fact that we humans cannot consume too much at once. When you are walking on the road, the only thing you are focused on is the path in front of you, right? When you are viewing your device, the only thing you can see is what shows up in front of you. And I think this is the mindset that actually brought about lazy loading, because lazy loading is applicable to a lot of different things, really. Game development, web development. um okay, I don't know about backend, but those two, I know, like, those are the two places I know that the concept of lazy loading has creeped in. And on the web, you many of you must have heard of the observation API, and this is what kickstarted the use of lazy loading, especially so close to the user. You don't want to load
Mm-hmm.
an image when the user is not viewing it, because again, they don't need data that is not in front of them. Show it to them only when they need it, right? And that's the
Yeah.
thought process here. If you use a framework like Next, it already gives you that functionality out of the box. You get the Next image package, and once you put in an image there, optimizes it, and it's also by default it lazy loads, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But if you're not going that route, I think there's now direct browser support for lazy loading on the image tag. It's either, okay, I don't know the attribute, but it has loading inside of it somewhere. But I'll use Next mostly for these things, so apologies. Um, and then you can also do some lazy loading from your router. Like I mentioned earlier, if the route is not in view, you import it as a lazy component, so that once it kicks in, that is when your JavaScript tries to get that this thing. And even the way, I think the
Yeah.
way this works with the hood is that during your bundling process, it creates checkpoints at those different instances. If you don't implement lazy loading, it's going to bundle all of the entire JavaScript into a single file. Right? Everything just comes in a single file, and you
Mhm.
download the file. The file could be like 30 kilobytes long or 50 kilobytes long. But if you implement lazy loading, it's going to now split those 30 kilobyte files into like separate chunks, each one leading to another, because it's like a build. It tracks itself, like using the source map. It tracks itself. So once it reaches the end of one bundle tree, it stops there and then it picks up from the next. So the next one is now being triggered by, say, you are using React router in this case, right? Or maybe when the parent component comes in, right? So that's kind of the mindset here. You don't want to bring everything in immediately. Uh, so yeah, there's this algorithm. Again, I forgot his name, but it uses a lot in game development. You know how it gives you like low poly it gives you low poly meshes for views that are far away from you, and it only gives you the high quality one when it's close to you. Like when you're playing a game like COD or something, you only see like high quality distance on your gun
High quality.
path. But if you look far ahead, what you've just seen is like you know just few pixels put together just to make it look like the real thing, but it's actually the real thing. So
But
it's a form of lazy loading, right? If you want to put it that way, it's a form of lazy loading. So it's just bringing in all of these concepts that are being used in a lot of different environments and trying to make it native to the web. That's one of the efforts that lazy loading is bringing in. So yeah, it's a really good pattern. I feel like a lot of people should actually adopt it, because it increases performance by a whole lot. And something else that this could even apply to is like API calls, right? So if you had an entire dashboard that had, say, 50 components, one very strong analytics dashboard, if you were going
yeah.
to get all of these data from a single API call,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to happen, because you'd have to wait for the backend to process all of that computation. Your grouping data by categories and all of that. You get all the charts and then I dump everything on the user again. Even the time that it takes to
Mm-hmm.
fetch and the time that it takes to render, it's going to be a lot. So
Yeah, it's
how
going
does
to be.
lazy loading? You can now decide to come up with have a way to, okay, two ways I can think about it. Okay, I only want to make 5 API calls at a time. So why would I make 5 API calls? This means I'm only going to be loading like 5 components of the dashboard. As opposed to getting all of the data at once, I just get a few of them. So it's in a queue. I process five and then I batch in the next. Or in fact, I even stop. Maybe I don't even batch in the next. I stop. Once it just scrolls down, their container comes into view. Observation API, like I said, you're combining patterns now. You make the next API call. So at this way, the user
Send
gets a
API,
much text as opposed to just dumping everything on them
bring
and
everything
again wasting.
at once.
The user might just be like, okay, dashboard, they see stuff and they're like, I'm going to another bay. If you loaded everything, if you and everybody's just like the backend is turning that request, you're wasting resources for
Every
something you
time.
never use. And then like they just go to another page because they're not interested in seeing the dashboard at that moment. So
Yeah.
in the real
Uh,
sense of it, it's a good trick to even save yourself a lot of stress. So yeah,
yeah.
that's the for now.
Okay, thank you, Tinotu. So, to be honest, lazy loading is actually what a lot of companies use, and I didn't even think it to the extent Tinotu actually said. So that's what I'm actually saying. Like, I also learn from other people too. I always play a lot of games. I'm just noticing that that's really true, right? Like trying to kind of shoot, and the ones that are far off, they are going to definitely like be something kind of not even reality, but those one close by, they be like high quality and all. So I think that's something that's very very good. But in web based, or maybe in I do React Native to Instagram is that I think they use React Native to build Instagram, for example. So I understand that a lot of people will actually understand that one very well. You know, React lazy loading, for example, is like when you on Instagram, it's going to give you some content there already, right? And but sometimes too, if your internet is not really that good or not really that strong, you actually see that it's kind of giving a kind of flipping content or flipping so the major stuff is just to understand that it's really help users a lot in a lot of ways. So if you are giving me a lot of content to read at once, I might not be able to read all of them. But if you're only giving me maybe like two books, or maybe, for example, I don't know, most people that actually study physics or all these kind of big courses, medical line, instead of giving me that whole kind of books, I would actually prefer you tear it down for me, maybe tear it down for me in 20 pages so that I can consume that one first because before consuming everything. I know that I actually consume a lot of them, but if you're giving me in small bits, I'll be reading it small, small. So that's exactly what lazy loading is, and it's very, very good for your website. So that's a good concept. So thank you guys. So I actually want to talk about course today, but we have already used a lot of time. So let's go to the ones that are not really technical, right? This is also a technical, but I just want to understand how you guys do about. So let's give an example of a web page, right? So the question is, can you describe your workflow when you create a web page? A web page. So currently now, if I want to create a web page, I can use a lot of front end from the technologies. So I want to know which are you going to use HTML? Are you going to use CSS? Are you going to use JavaScript? Are you going to use Nest.js? Are you going to use Bootstrap? Are you going to use Tailwind? Are you going to use I don't know, but for a web page currently at this your level, right? What are the technologies are you going to use? How are you going to pick the technology you are going to use to build your web page? So let's give an example of uh, maybe just a SaaS website. All right. So, James, just give me a kind of sincere, like currently now, if I give you a project to work on now, what are the technologies are going to use? How are you going to build it? How are you going to create the web page or websites?
Okay. A web page or a website.
Yeah, I said a web page or
A web page
websites,
or a
depending on
website.
what you want to do. Anyone of your choice. But
Okay.
okay,
Okay. If it's
let's say
okay, okay.
let's say website, all right?
If it is a web page, I wouldn't bother installing this front end frameworks and all. I'll just use my HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It is just a single page. But if it is a website that requires a lot of interactions, a lot of JavaScript, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
and all, so I would use Next.js. I would use Next.js with TypeScript and Tailwind for easy CSS. No, I don't think I can go back to, well, if I see a job that is using native CSS, I'll actually go back. But it seems stressful at this point. But I would use Next.js with Tailwind and TypeScript. So
Oh,
I would install Next.js from their docs. I actually go to the docs every time. Then there's a way to do it with TypeScript. It automatically comes with TypeScript. There's a command for that. Then I install
yeah.
Tailwind to. Then I also use I just discovered it not long ago. Shadcn for like Tailwind components. So like some components have
Mm-hmm.
already been built. So you can actually use it. It aids faster development. So like it can help you abstract
Okay.
some components that might not be very easy to build or might not be fast. It might not be fast. You're trying to build. Let's say you're trying to meet up with deadline. That's the basic. That's my basic tooling. Actually, that's my basic tooling. Yeah, yeah, and alright.
All right. Uh, that's a good one, drives. So, James, I would say for me there would be um there'd be three scenarios I give. The first being a web page, which is just one page. Second being a website, which
Mm-hmm.
is say like e-commerce has some backend to it. And third being a web app, which is like, dashboard, user, this thing. So the first, if it's just a web page, okay, company marketing, about us, contact us, I will use Astro for that. The reason is very simple. I hate pure HTML now. Like, I've been traumatized twice because of this guy. And why? Because I don't have components. So Astro gives me all the benefits of writing pure HTML with components, right? I would choose that over copy and pasting every day. Let me explain my pain. I worked on a website for a loan company 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
working on the header and the footer, same thing on all pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I had about 8 pages going. These were just HTML because I was doing a lot of, because we were going to be working with like a Laravel backend, so they just wanted to copy and paste the HTML and make it interactive on the Laravel side. That was what the client wanted. So what happened was I just went ahead, I did all of that, and then at the final stage of the job, the client was not like, okay, on this footer, I want this thing to. Why is it the footer that you want to make changes to? Why? I have the footer on 8 pages. If I was working with a component, I change it to one place, it reflects everywhere. But in this case, no, I have to go to every
Yeah.
single of those files
That's the
and
thing.
make these changes. Ever since then, I told myself if anything has me writing more than one page in HTML, it's Astro I'm using. So that is why I made that decision. And the second one, I use Next.js for one scenario, or okay, maybe two scenarios. That's what the company is using, or I need to have the backend in the same place. What do I mean? I worked on a blog last year, and the client specifically said that he does not have money for more than one server. I said, okay, fine. I'm not going to do front end, back end. We'll just do Next.js. I write the server side code too and ship everything in a single server. That is for me, that is like a sweet win for Next.js. It's my go-to when I'm in that kind of scenario. But if it's not left to build like a user application with a dashboard, this is my third case scenario, like a web app, I will go with pure React with Vite, right? Set up the whole TypeScript. I even have a template that I use. It's something that helps me myself. I built it myself. It works with me. I work with it, right? We move fast. Like as Shadcn is to Drimes, this template is for me,
Yeah.
right? We are so that's my go-to. And I use React Router a lot, more than you would expect, really, because it's a It's just there's so much about React Router, and I'm really excited about React Router 7 because it brings in, it brings in server, it's bringing a server environment into, playing React, just as
Yeah.
you are the React Router as a plugin inside your Vite, you'll be able to enable the server environment so as a plugin inside Vite. So I'm really excited for that change. But yeah, that's my breakdown. As far as styling goes, of course, I work with Tailwind CSS. Nothing is ever gonna make me write vanilla again. Nothing. um,
Uh,
so
okay,
I
so
think I have to give a shout out to one APM package right now because I think we are doing that one NPM package, and that is FormKit Auto Animate. If you have not used it before,
hmm,
you should try it out. FormKit Auto Animate. It says what it does. It auto animates. I don't write animations myself, but when it comes to little things like, okay, I'm taking something out of the view or bringing it inside of the view, you still want that thing to feel smooth, but you don't have the energy to install Framer and start writing X minus Y minus, like auto animate it. You can just go to docs, you see how it works. It's a very, very interesting project. It was also built by the creator of Vite, Ivan Yu. He's a contributor to it, and it's a single JavaScript file. Single JavaScript file. It's a lovely package. So yeah, shout out to FormKit. So yeah.
okay now. So thank you very much, Trinity. So so I actually come to understand something when I was working with my brother, right? He said he always asks me a question if we are working together that okay, which technology do you want to use, right? So I actually mentioned maybe okay, I want to use Next.js for this project or something like that. But he come to on like he actually says something that they don't really just pick technology because of okay, this is the project or this is what I know. No, even if you don't know it as a developer, you should be able to learn it on the job, right? So if they actually say okay, this is the reason why we're using this and this is why we're going to use this, right? You should be able to learn it on the way, right? But the major thing is just for us to understand what the foundation is almost every time. Understand what the foundation is, how it's going to work, how it's going, like majorly, that's just all. But for me, currently, if I want to build a landing page or a web page, I'm actually use no code to be honest. If it's just a normal page, I want to have a lot of animations. Why not? I can use Webflow. I can use WordPress, depending on what it is, right? Or if it's something like websites for a company or something like that, and it still has a little bit of backend as Twitter has actually said, I can just use normal Nest, right? Client side and server side to work it so smooth. And also the last thing is for web app, I recently built a dashboard recently. This is Nest.js because I really love Nest.js. You know, there's something Tinotu said. He was trying to mention something about lazy loading then it just comes with React, like just as simple as that. Very, very simple. Just use your Next.js and just go JJ. But I've been able to use other technologies like Remix and stuff like that, depending on what the company actually wants. Okay, this is what they want. Of course, let's go with it. But always TypeScript is the way. TypeScript is always the way. Please try as much as possible not to use JavaScript. Don't make life complicated for you. And also another thing too, I will always say it out there that front end is more stressful than back end. I'm not saying that depending on the project though, depending on the project, there are actually some project that can be very easy for front end guys and can very be difficult for back end guys. But to be honest, front end guys, I think we always go through that kind of stress. I've been writing backend for a while. I'm like, this is just about the logic, you get understand the logic, and that's all you're good to go for backend. But for front end, you can write the same thing all over again. But using Shotzi and you don't really have to worry about the UI. Just worry about the logic too. Worry about the logic. You can just customize some few things using the Shotzi and you're good to go. Like currently, I'm working on a project with my brother, just a kind of personal project, and we just want to launch it. We're using Chassis, and we're not really worrying about the UI, but we're worrying about the implementation itself. how the user will interact with it, which is very, very good. So I think that's all for that, from my own personal point of view. So there's another question I want to ask, right? I really, 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 really want to ask you guys. So I will skip some questions. I have 9 questions here. But I'll actually say, if you could master one tech this year, what will it be? What will it be? So what exactly are you going to learn this year? What do you think you have been wanting to learn for a period of, like maybe a year ago? It might not even really be in web, but technically in maybe software engineering. What is that thing you are actually trying to like learn this year?
Okay,
So James, yeah.
okay, thank you. Actually, I've been on this tech. I started around, but I wasn't into it like that. But like the year started, like we were like 2010 and all, like 2023 from the beginning. So I've been on JavaScript since then, React next. So although I am not where I am supposed to be, I'm trying. I would um I would actually want some field, for you to be regarded as an expert in your field. That there's still those gray areas. Like like someone said, say an expert in a field is someone that has used this tool enough to know, like to know that this tool is something like that. Like it's so much more, so like you can't even tell the flaws. So I actually like to get there. And also I've been actually looking into talking. I've actually been trying some of these things. I'm building a personal project, which is a blog site that people can log in, can create their own blog. And yeah, they can create their own blog. When they create the blog, post it, upload to the blog. So if you don't want to create your blog, you can just go there as a reader and check the list of blogs already. So I just started not long ago. It's internship, although so many, but I keep going. I'm still strong. Still going. I'm still going. I'm still going with it. So and it has actually been fun. Back then, it was fun. Maybe it was because it was past API, but it's actually fun. I like the dogs. Like, I'm very bad at reading dogs, but the fast API dogs, I actually have to give it to them. They are real writers. They were just like I was just playing with them. I was like, okay, let's see. So, yeah, that's it. So I'd actually like to like my front end and my back end. Like actually be able to build cool things. But I actually noticed that you can actually build cool things without this back end. Except you partner with back end. If you are a front end guy, you won't really be able to build a lot of software. Not really software, but you won't be able to build complex products. You won't be able to build the front end. So it's let me God. I'm trying my best.
Okay. So Tinoti,
Right. So for me, if I was gonna pick up a new tech skill, it would be learning Rust. I want to learn Rust. Started learning Rust last year, but I'm too dumb for it. Unfortunately, that thing doesn't make any sense. So I said I'm gonna settle for Go. Why do I say so? I was working on a SMTP server this year, like a couple months ago, and you know there was, even though it's still quite early, I was looking at how do we handle, the scale of the request would be processing over time, and it just makes a lot of sense that that I pick up a newer programming language. Go is fast, Go is good, Go is beautiful, Go is lovely. I want to learn Go, not Rust, because I'm too dumb for it, unfortunately.
okay.
Maybe learn
So
Vim
thank
too.
you guys. Learning what?
Maybe learn Vim.
Okay, okay. Oh wow.
So you can become a base
Okay,
developer in
so But the very good thing about learning new technology every year is like, for example, I think 2 years ago, yeah, I was just like, this year I want to learn React Native, and I always give myself a kind of like, okay, by December or November, I should be able to at least have worked on a project that is paid, because what I always think is they have to pay me for my experience by time of learning too. Do you get? So I always like
Yeah.
track myself that okay, by this also time I want to work on a project that at least I will get paid. It has been a while I've worked on React Native. I think I still wrote something relating to React Native this year, which is very, very good. But the major thing is if you are trying to learn something, don't just learn that I want to learn it for fun. That's what I personally always believe. I'm All of us are here because number one, don't let us lie. It's not about really about problem solving alone. You want to make the money in tech. Am I right? So
Yeah, yeah,
the
right.
major thing is let's try as much as possible to learn something. Currently, I'm trying to really go back to back end very well because I was even I think just a month in, I was like, okay, let me just go and meet this person I'm working for. That okay, I want to start working on back end. Gave me a project and I was able to like just work on it. I didn't work on it alone. I actually like check online, went to my guys, okay, how can I go about this logic
Of
and stuff like that.
course.
Yeah, it was Telegram bot. So it's really made me to really learn faster more than like okay, I'm building things personally for myself, which is extremely very, very good. Okay. So that's actually making me to push more, to learn more about uh my school projects. I was able to write Flags because I know a little bit about Python. So I was like, okay, let me just use Flags to, write something very, very simple, which is very it will allow me to really learn Flags to an extent, and at least to actually write, maybe some code applications and or stuff like that. But for me, this year I'm just trying to learn Python very well. Maybe I will cross to data engineering. Who knows? That's what I really wish to do after maybe software and stuff like that, which is very, very good. So thank you very much. And before we go, Timothy is actually you can actually see the vest is actually wearing. He
Yeah,
is actually found out no be small.
Nah, nah. Small. Yeah, thank you for this. So the company, the Express Labs, we are working on a couple of B2B products, and our flagship product SMTP Express was actually built primarily for developers. So you can check it out if you're interested. SMTP Express is an email delivery service. It's zero config setup. You get an email, a transactional email out of the box that you can use to send emails from your front end applications, back-end applications, mobile apps, doesn't matter. So yeah, I can just give it a try. The docs are well detailed. Get you set up. You'll be up and running in less than 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So there's actually something I want to say. So there was one time James was actually mentioning documentation. Please, I beg you in the name of God, try as much as possible to use more of documentation. I've come to understand that through my experience, right? I prefer just reading the documentation rather than watching videos, random videos. Even people that are actually using these videos are actually learning from these docs. So why not just sit down for a while? If I'm starting to learn a new technology in the company and they say, okay, this is what we're going to be using, I will use maybe a week or two to actually read. I actually got that from my brother, which is very, very good. And to be honest, I'm not actually regretted reading documentation. But so that's everything. So Drimes, thank you guys. Timothy, thank you. I really
yeah.
appreciate. And for people,
Thank you.
yeah, and yeah, you're welcome, boss. So and for people that really joined, thank you guys. I really appreciate. So just like 1 hour talk with my bosses, which is extremely good. So thank you guys, and I love you. See you in the next one. And I'm hoping that more people will come and we're going to do stuff like that, like this. So thank you, Tinotu. Thank you, James. Thank you. So bye.
Yeah. Goodbye, everyone.